After every new controller video, the question I get the most is, if I want a Russian wife. Spam. After that one, if the given controller works on the Xbox. Even more, after we showed how to install emulators on it. And I get it. With the option of retro gaming, and the furors we have seen on some controllers, many would love to have them on their console.
But the answer is always no. Microsoft does not support other wireless controllers, but there is an option to connect them via USB. And that's why this exists. An adapter that promises to connect any controller to your Xbox. What controllers work and how well? Let's see. Welcome back. I'm Claudio, and this is Zero to Tech.
Brook is a Taiwan-based company that makes controllers and accessories with a big focus on console adapters. The one we have here is the Wingman XB for Xbox consoles. The box is small, it doesn't need to have much. The USB dongle has a USB connector, a USB port on the back, and two buttons on the sides. It has a green color to identify it from other versions, and besides it, it only includes some decals. It does not have a manual, but its page has all the information you need. The device's idea is to be able to connect almost any Bluetooth or USB controller to any Xbox, from the OG to the series. But here we start to see some limitations. First, it supports almost anything with USB, but with Bluetooth, it only mentions the Switch Pro and the PlayStation 3, 4 or 5 controllers.
But with this, I'm sure you now have several ideas. A PlayStation controller on the Xbox, ideal for the PlayStation 2 emulator. The same thing with retro controllers from 8BitDo, and those with additional features such as the Flydigi Apex and the Gulikit King Kong 2 Pro. And these are just a few.
But before trying all these, let's talk about the additional features. It has turbo mode and button remapping. Activating them requires a complicated sequences of presses. Fortunately, the instructions on the page include videos. Remapping is very useful for controllers that have Nintendo's layout. It also allows to connect the new Xbox controllers to older consoles, but via USB, and lets you connect compatible controllers to a PC using X input. Now, let's see how this translates to the many controllers we have seen on the channel. We tried enough to give us an idea of which ones work and which ones do not, and how well they perform. Let's start with edge cases, controllers and USB adapters for old controllers. We tried first with iBuffalo clone of the Super Nintendo controller, and this Mayflash adapter for the NES, SNES and Genesis controllers. They do not work. It detects the controller but sends just rubbish commands. The adapter, nothing. We also tried the Nintendo Mini controllers using the RAFnet adapter, with no luck. We tested everything on the PC to ensure that the adapters were not the problem. The funny thing is that Retrobit USB controller for the Genesis Mini works perfectly. Although its support is explicit on Brook's page. It even has special commands using start with other buttons to complement the missing ones. So fighting games in RetroArch work great. Based on the diagram, we can assume that if it's X input, Switch or PlayStation, they work via USB. And if they are Switch or PlayStation, they also work via Bluetooth. Of course, this immediately leaves out any direct input controller, but still leaves a lot of options. With this idea, we tested many, some wired, some with wireless adapters, and some with Bluetooth. And we started with 8BitDo because if you want a controller for RetroArch, what better than the ones inspired by retro consoles? We start with the SN30 Pro. Wired, it works fine with X input, Switch and Mac mode, but also wirelessly. To pair with Bluetooth, press the two buttons on the sides until the LEDs starts to blink. Then, put the controller in pairing mode, and wait for them to connect. We connected it in Switch mode, and it works perfectly. It does not have analog buttons, so you don't lose anything using Switch mode. The same applies to the N30 and the M30, an ideal collection for 8 and 16-bit games. Then, we tried the Pro Plus and the Pro 2. Again, the issue is that those have analog triggers. You can use them wired in X input, but iOS mode connects to the iPhone as a PlayStation controller, and you can use this mode to connect to the Wingman. With this mode, everything works perfectly, including the analog triggers, which are ideal for car games. Finally, both the Ultimate wireless versions. Here, we were not so lucky. For some strange reason, the 2.4G version doesn't connect. Regardless of whether it is in X input, and you plug it via USB or with a wireless adapter. The Brook Wingman never detects it, and with the Bluetooth version it is basically the same. The 2.4G adapter, and through USB, automatically switches between switch or X input modes, but with the Wingman it does not know what to do, so it does not connect. But if you pair it via Bluetooth, it works fine. Not perfect because it still uses the Switch Pro controller mode, which limits the triggers to be digital. The same as we saw in the review. The behavior and protocols of these controllers are weird, but if you want Hall effect sticks for shooters, the Bluetooth version is your first choice. Now, if you need an Xbox specific Ultimate, you have to buy the specific wired version, which we will be reviewing next week along with its Pro 2 counterpart, so don't forget to subscribe. The next group of controllers is the Switch Pros. Like the 8B2 in Switch mode, they work without analog buttons, so they are not suitable for racing games, but are ideal for shooters. They connect without issues. We tried first with the official Pro controller. Truth be told, it's excellent. I last used it a long time ago, and it's a very good controller. Even the capture button has the same function on the Xbox Series. The best part is that the world of controllers on the Switch is extensive. This allows you to have perfect controllers for emulation. For example, the GameCube-like controller from PowerA, ideal for Dolphin, especially to revive old glories on Smash Billy. Too bad the adapter only supports one controller at a time. If you want more, you will have to buy additional adapters. Or if you want a controller for the N64, no problem. The Tribute 64 Wireless also uses the Switch protocol when connected with its 2.4G adapter, and it is your best choice for having all 4 C buttons and analog stick. A shame there is no 3-handed version.
And since the Switch controllers sometimes have more latency on other platforms, we tried to do the latency test using the Mister, but the Wingman couldn't connect. It connects to the PC, but not to the Mister nor the Steam Deck. But we didn't feel any additional latency in any of these tests.
The following family is the PlayStation controllers, which I am sure is the most used case for this adapter, because many people want to play the Xbox but prefer the PlayStation controller. If this is your case, the Wingman XB is for you. It works with all the controllers from the PlayStation 3 onward. To connect them wirelessly, you do the same as in an actual Sony console. You connect the USB cable, unplug it, and wait for the wireless connection. With the PlayStation 4 and 5 controllers, the experience was exactly the same. Connection without issues, and work with Bluetooth. The only point to mention was that when we tried the PlayStation 4 controller, the vibration did not work. We mention it because it was not a problem we had with any other controller. It may have been an isolated event. Now, you can play PlayStation 2 games with your PlayStation 5 controller on your Xbox. It's a strange world we live in. Some additional details. The adapter does not turn on the console. It also does not support active triggers or audio transfer. This is for obvious reasons, but don't expect to use the headphone jacks from your Sony controllers. You'll need a separate headset. Finally, let's move to this year's favorite controllers, the Flydigi Apex 2 and 3 and the Gulikit King Kong 2 Pro, where the story goes beyond being able to use them. Starting with the Apex 2, it works great, both by USB and with its 2.4G adapter, once you put it in X input mode. But the best part is that you can use all the additional features. You have to set them in Windows using its app, but with this, you can use the sliding buttons, mapping them to any of the 2 sticks, which will surely be helpful for some games. But most importantly, you can do the gyro mapping to the right stick, and finally, have a Sony and Nintendo exclusive feature on your Xbox, gyro aiming. With the Apex 3, the story is the same. You can connect it via USB and with the adapter using X input, and it works perfectly. If you set the controller in the app, it's the same. You can use the gyroscope to aim and have another Sony exclusive features, the adaptive triggers, even if they only have the default effect and don't react to the game. By the way, you can also connect it with Bluetooth in Switch mode, but the same, you lose the analog triggers. Finally, the winner of this year's prestigious Zero to Tech Controller of the Year award, the Gulikit King Kong 2 Pro. Unfortunately, it has some limitations. First, it does not have the PlayStation mode, so wirelessly, you're limited to the Switch Pro controller mode by Bluetooth. Not great for car games, but it is the best way to play Halo with the best analog sticks. But if you, like me, are fan of car games, you can still connect it via USB in X input mode and have all the features. The best part, same as with the Flydigi, everything works perfectly. Gyro aiming, trigger modes, turbo functions, and macro recorder. We thought that with an 8-bit DUO adapter, we might be able to connect it wirelessly. But even when the adapter can force X input, for some reason, they don't talk to each other. The Gulikit connects to the 8-bit DUO adapter, but the Wingman never detected. Now, a big note. During the production of this video, on November 28, Brook released the second version of this adapter, the Wingman XB2. It is exactly the same, but adds support for X input over Bluetooth. Now, how much does this little wonder cost? $50 for both the original and the new version. And there is nothing like it. 8-bit DUO adapters work for the PC and the Switch, but not for the Xbox.
Perfect for those who have an Xbox but want the flexibility to use other controllers, especially since it's so good for emulation. Emulation, you say? Wanna see how? Check out these 2 videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, retro games, modern technology, 0 to tech.